Bonjour à tous. For second or third part of logicism, and prosteriori in attribute and substance, we continue this part. Husserl, in logical investigation, has a chapter of independent and non-independent. In relatively independent, when cited, the amount and relation parts in object has a different forms. The cardinal difference between independent and non-independent object, distinction between independent and dependent part is object's real possession, being real things, object in itself, all parts in abstraction tied likewise apart. In non-relative dependent, like a red color and round shape as a non-existent or something as a predicate, therefore points to a part of object, a very real mode of association as the moment of spatial configuration, likewise counts as a proper part of the whole parts without qualification means independent parts, pieces, abstract contents, investigation or distinction. End of the quote. Whole part object as a complex simple from quantitative and qualitative priori, an idea on object, plurality of disjoint part as a color and shape in associated parts, member as an interpenetrating whole object broken up or potential could be broken as an articulate structure as a not disjoint from each other but relatively independent, mutually put together pieces. Now, at this moment, prosteriori thinks to modernize this priori for new generation through atoms and molecules, from amino acids to protein, from fat saturated to unsaturated acetic phospholipid. Yes, biochemistry and physiology for reaching independent and non-independent object in itself. What is blood and why red as a color in associated part of object? Relatively independent hemoglobin macromolecule, when hem that contain iron reacts to oxygen, becomes red in association and dissociation based on a principle of Gibbs in thermodynamics. If you, as an engineer, to calculate by a smartphone, tablet, or laptop, computer consists of RAM, ROM, CPU, hard disk, and monitor by their resistor, capacitors, transistors, diode, IC, integrated circuit on petrochemical polymer part of motherboard. Prior to explicate the true genesis of language as a hypothesis to reach future theory by neuroinformatic would like to contend on ontology of sound as essence language relevant to alphabet draw. Note of music determines time of keyboard or string, which is 1 to 1 on sevenths. Alphabet note do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si as C, D, E, F, G, A, B in music signify which string, keyboard, and what part, location, and time of resonate to combination corresponding frequency of strings. Since harmony and rhythm determined by number of repetition of an event or cycle in period of time and hertz as a frequency equal 1 on t or 1 divide on t indicates cycle per second. On each instrument, keyboard or string has a different frequency from A0 to A5, as A0 is 27.55 hertz. A2 on a piano is 55 hertz, or A3 220 hertz. This tone starts from low frequency to high frequency. Low frequency has a bigger length of wave, and high frequency has a short length of wave. Higher frequency has a bigger pitch, and low frequency has a smaller pitch, and we can feel this effect by passing a honking fast moving car as a Doppler effect, as such a vibration of frequency. Distance to keyboard is a zemitone, white, black, white, beside of a whole tone. As a note length, we have half note, quarter note, 1 on 8th note, and 1 on a 16th note. Different instruments like a drum, piano, violin, guitar, flute have a different musical range, and each note has a previous established frequency. From do to C is called 1 octave, and A4 or L or La 3 is a central octave. Piano is an index that other notes calibrated by 440 hertz. When we are in philosophy of phenomenology discusses on a calibrate means mark a gauge by musician, not instrument players. A3 200 Hz, A4 440 Hz, and A5 880 Hz. This is why we play same note in different octave and we meet the maximum harmony. Now, prosteriori in its abstract and concrete on property summit in nature of thinking to conceive energy by Gibbs, as Nikola Tesla cited. If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. End of the quote. A chirp is a signal in which the frequency increases or decreases with time. Equal temperament tuning ratio between the frequency of a note and the next semitone is a square root of 12 of 2, and a square root of 12 of 2, which is 1.06. frequency note divide on 1006 is a frequency previous of semitone. So frequency A4 is 440 Hz times 1.06 is equal 466, which is next frequency of your keyboard is a B flat 4. Subtitle: Wave as a substance. As a nature of wave, a sine wave is a geometrical waveform that oscillates periodically and is defined by the function which is mathematical in high school grade 11, y equal sine x, sine cosine, tangents cotangent. So waveform is the trigonometric sine function in mechanics as a linear motion over time. This is simple harmonic motion as a rotation. It corresponds to uniform circular motion. Sound phenomena with object vibration mechanically, musical instrument, vocal folds, loudspeaker, and ear converts sound waves into electrical nerve impulse similar to microphone. Bell and movement of air molecules, sound wave chain reaction through air and molecules has their own vibration by temperature and humidity. Since molecules vibrate faster, thus sound waves can travel more quickly. By remember of Quasimodo in Hogo. The speed of sound in room temperature air is 346 meter per second. This is faster than 331 meter per second when air at freeze temperature. When we discuss the sound on a vibration molecules to meet up, the terminology is acoustic. Air wave and vibration make a pressure as P equal F divide on S, and F is force and S is area. In higher height, the pressure is lower. At sea level, atmosphere pressure is 101 Pascal, and crest and trough. This picture, higher is a crest and lower is a trough. Crest and trough is more than Mexico City by 2.24 kilometers above sea level, by air pressure 76 Pascal. Thereby crest and trough related to power and energy of sound, which indicates by amplitude, and wavelengths by signage, alphabet of Latin lambda, depends on a speed of sound, and the wavelengths depend on a speed of sound, and that is related to depend of the medium, which is can be air, water, and metal. Another factor for wavelengths is a frequency. Length of wave as a lambda is equal c divided on f, and c is a speed of the sound, and wave, and f is a frequency or pitch Doppler effect. For example, length wave in air in a 20 hertz is equal 343 meters per second divided on 20 hertz equal 17.15 meters. Sound speed in water is 1480 meters per second in air. In air is 343 meters per second. In metal, depend of the metal, has a range from 300 to 240 to 5000 meters per second. Therefore, sound for traveling needs medium, and in a space is no air, as a vacuum, so no transmission of sound. Speed sound in dry air at 20 centigrade is 343 meter or 1235 kilometer per hour. So fighter jet speed is usually more than 2000 kilometer per hour, and for rodent like a mouse makes a auditory damage or inner ear bleeding. For domestic dog, changes in plasma as a physiological reaction. Thus, Doppler effect related to frequency, which indicates in in mathematics by sine wave, square wave, or sawtooth wave. While for breaking sound barrier like a fighter jet, we need to define decibel that shows us the power or amount energy of sound wave and will be changed by amplification, pressure, and in digital audio by voltage. In matter of fact, decibel is like a pH is based on a logarithm. Change of pressure as a Pascal means change of amplifier since SPL is sound pressure logarithm that perception will affect on a loudness and decibel will be changed as a human ear audible in 20 SPL, which is equal to 0 decibel. Less than that, inaudible. The slowest vibration in human ear is 20 vibration per second, and this is a low pitched sound. The fastest vibration is 20,000 per second. Thus, any sound has a different decibel, means different power of energy, which can be referred by watt per square meter. Watt per square meter or joule per square or joule on a square centimeter is the other indicator for a wave which can be extended for light as well. For example, threshold of hearing in 0 decibel is equal 1 times 10 to exponent minus 12 watt per square meter. Rustling leaves has a 10 decibel or equal to watt on a square meter is 1 times 10 to exponent minus 11. Normal conversation is 60 decibel, which is 1 times 10 to exponent minus 6 watt per square meter. Rain sound has a 40 decibel. Noise truck 80 decibel. Helicopter 100 decibel. Siren 120 decibel. Over 85 to 90 decibel we need air plug, which I get used to for living in Toronto and Calgary or Humboldt or even in Chicoutimi. I get used to air plug. I'm very familiar with the air plug. Fighter jet engine has 140 decibel. Perception of loudness. Any increment in decibel is plus 3. Any increment 3 times decibel, for example 3 decibel to 6 decibel, it means amplitude is x times a square root of 2 and power will be x to exponent 2. Husserl has passed from psychological connection of thinking to the logical unity of the thought content, the units of theory, while my logic is unity of hypotheses until neuroinformatic physiology to find algorithm concept and mathematics on characteristic principal wave in frequency, wavelengths, speed, and power in a true continuity and unity. Reconciliation, the objectivity of mathematics and all science in general. Convictions of reigning logic by psychology shaken. Thus, we continue to general critical reflection of cognitive Kant on the ontology of logicism. Genesis' perception of logic as a science is to know epistemology. Brain as a reach to essence, logic as a science, new foundation of pure logic and epistemology independently, choosing a path remote. My logical investigation were my breakthrough, not an end, but rather a beginning. Force bees to pursue the woven threads of my problems further in every direction, track down and tackle parallels in relation of entities, multiplying, interlacing structure to purge and removing obscurity and abstention, widen and deepen in ideas as cherish in phenomenological philosophy. Some part of this agony is similar to the Husserl, a series of systematic exposition to toss and drop obsession and iron out stubbornness for transvaluation and new scientific philosophy, a reduction nuance in rational theory to reach better reality of empiricism through itself in 21st century without regressive surmise, informatic neurology and investigation, intuition of essence, analyzing language, hearing, other taste and division as empirical common senses. It is not a systematic exposition of logic, but an effort at epistemological clarification and critique of basic concept of logical knowledge, as a prosteriori like a Husserl defends a vision of logic as a pure theory of science. In fact, the science of science, the pure logic can be transformed into a normative science or developed into a practical discipline or technology. Both of us pass over from psychologicism, belief, guess, suppositional, speculative. This is a phenomenology of empiricism, positivism, rationalism, Hegelianism, or Neo-Kantian. Now, phenomenology of magnetic wave or neuron wave, a nascent and ancillary one, as a real events of natural context of zoological reality. In one hand, science, empiricism, zoology, reality. Other hand is pure logic to make a clearness and distinctness. Phenomenology concerned with the essential structures of cognition and their correlation to the things known. Husserl cited, we must go back to the things themselves. Task of phenomenology is to clarify the nature of logical concepts by tracing their origin in intuition. End of the quote. 4. elucidation of essence language is required some contrivance by prosteriori from Euclidean to hyperbolic one by history of Abescus in 2500 BC to as to as astrolabe device through astrology, then Morse code to indicate alphabets by dot and dash, and this was the essence of language in computer from 1884 until now by IBM, Microsoft, Intel, Android, and Apple or Samsung. Data instruction flow execution numbers as the first 4 bits of instruction is the operation code or load like a 0010, and then second set of 4 bits defines memory location in the case like a 1110 is a 14 on a monitor of computer, whereas language essence in brain is an enigmatic subject yet, since it follows a hyperbolic geometry in transmitting magnetic wave as a non-linear wave. Dr. Louis Collins has some research on a non-linear image registration at Neuroimaging and Neuroinformatics Research Group at McGill University. But what is important is how DNA of dendrites are differentiated to transfer signal wave of sound and alphabet draws into concept as a numeric arithmetic does, like a 1 plus 1 equal 2 in cognition. Dr. Richard Hogue, as a researcher in MRI, magnetic resonant image, and PET, positron emission tomography in physiology of cognitive at this department would be a future asset. To reach as such modeling, even we are not in tip of the iceberg in ocean. We need a specialist group in physics of wave, molecular cell engineer to decoding simple DNA like a bacteriophage for commanding elongated tail if it is based on a magnetic wave, not hormone. Then research at this modeling wave can help us to reach modeling of more complicated one in systematic of animals. Existence of mathematicians, computer engineer, and biochemists and biophysicists are as such asset to reach hyperbolic wave of prefrontal cortex. For example, how I, je, ish has a semantic and voice wave to attribute as a my body. The process of becoming manifest is not the process of producing illusory images, but it is in simple polynomial function of linear equation we have. While in subjective wave of cortex not only is not linear, but also it is not Euclidean trigonometry wave like a sound or light. Imagine hallucination dream in like a sexual organism, or thirsty one, or trauma like a troops. For example, what is this hallucination? It is not the wave. We have to experiment and we have to explain. Any people has a dream at the night, and we have it this laboratory when we slept. For example, the best one, when you are very thirsty or hungry and you are very sleepy and tired, middle of the night you thinking you eat something, but it's not the real food. and you wake up, oh, it's not the food. Or thirsty, you thinking you drinking, but it's not the water, it's something in your mind. Or a special teenager, they have a too much testosterone. Actually, we are us, because 10 years or 12 years I'm a single and like a teenager, and we have such a dream at the night, and we thinking our love is coming, and there is some hallucination. It's not the body like a girl. And because I'm saying girls, because I don't know, the girls has such these dreams for orgasm that I know about the boys. And suddenly, after some struggling the dream, and we are thinking, oh, our underwear is wet. Oh, we are urinate? No. Oh, we are orgasm. This is that image is a hallucination. That is a wave. We wanted to understand what's the modeling of that, even in cognitive, like a 1 plus 1 is 2, or je vais au l'école, or I go to the school. Same in German, in any language, Arabic or Sanskrit or Spanish, any language, any country. So what is this conception? This wave is sort of the dream, and that have to be interpreted by the computer to the from hyperbolic to the Euclidean wave on x and y on a polynomial, and that is difficult, and but it's happen, it will be happen and must be happen. Because when Jules Verne said, whenever you dream, it means possibility, means to fact. So now the part of the Euclidean and part of the function grade 11 high school, which is important to the wave of the Euclidean wave on a graph, we are starting by this picture. Hopefully they said if x go to the infinity and y go to the positive infinity and y go to the positive infinity in y equal plus x to exponent 2, this is this part of the wave. And if x go to the positive infinity and y go to the negative infinity, when function is y equal minus x to exponent 2, this is this part. This is y, and this is x, and this is this graph. This is the alphabet. This is the alphabet of the front cortex, or signal of the which have to be interpreted. What is interpreted as a j or I or ish? That is will be. This is not. This is objective. This is objective. What is happening is a subjective in the brain. Is nothing of this. Have to be interpreted by the other computer to the objective which we have right now. If y function equal plus x to exponent 3 has a two side. If x goes to the positive infinity, y goes to the positive infinity. In the left side, if x goes to the minus infinity, y goes to the minus infinity. That is this one. X to the positive infinity and x to the negative infinity. If x goes to the negative infinity, y goes to the negative infinity. X goes to the positive infinity, and y is to the positive infinity. The other one, we have y equal minus x to exponent 3. That is function. When x goes to the positive, y goes to the y goes to the positive, x goes to the minus infinity, y goes to the positive infinity. X goes to the positive infinity, y goes to the minus infinity. The other one is the same. If x, the function is a y equal plus x to exponent 4. If x goes to the positive infinity, or x goes to the negative infinity, y goes to the always to the positive infinity. This is this one, this picture. If x goes to the positive infinity, x goes to the negative infinity, always y is on a positive infinity. But this one, no, always y on a minus infinity, whatever x is positive or x is negative. So this principle is grade 11 on a function. By this, after we can go to the wave of the sound or wave of the light or for vision, and this is based on a trigonometry. We can have such a this picture or this one, or we have this one. All is this is another wave. So all the wave is on a axis of the x polynomial diagram, is not out of this. This is the space and time of the can, always on x and y. Or this one, all the wave, whether the trough or the sawdust, whatever is a fixture, they are inside of the x and y. So they have a sine, they have a cosine and cosine, they have a tangent or cotangent based on a trigonometry, which is again in a high school. And okay, so now 37. What I draw is an objective one, while what is magnetic quantum radiation of lipid chain in front cortex for cognition is in transcendental of this objective graph. None of this. This is not the, no graph is like objective we can, because those one is a subjective and we don't know how's the shape. Objective graph and for cognition is in a transcendental of this objective graph as a reason. And this is a reason. This is a definition of the reason, and this is a modern reason in a 21st or 22nd century. In other words, all these graphs, whether Euclidean or objective on paper, while the real one as a subjective reason is sort of imagination or hallucination, which we meet up in a dream, sort of hyperbolic, whether physiologically or sentimentally, like a trauma of the troops for past history in battlefield. Thus, in battlefield, yes, I'm a troops. I always was a troops. I'm 12 years, 14 years, 16 years, or in history of my life for 50 years in past, and after immigration, my life was like a troops in the war. As politicians, they know very well. Thus, we think on a tissue culture instead of metal chip into head. Now, the comparison of the natural philosophy on the head. Okay, this is the end of this section, and we continue. Thank you very much.